Our podcast is uncensored and is intended for adult listening only.
The stories we tell you are usually filled with disturbing content, including crimes against children, domestic violence, murder, and all other terrible things.
Be advised this is not for the faint of heart or easily offended.
Please do not listen if you are sensitive to these issues or topics.
Hello. This is going to be weird talking.
Face to face.
Yeah.
Cheek to cheek.
So I have a question for you. Before I get started on today's story, what is the most disturbing, what is the worst true crime story podcast episode that we have ever done?
The one that I did on the couple, and like I have this ready to go every single time. The couple where he like used the bottle and the straightener to absolutely violate her and murder her, and her tissue and everything was all over the closet.
That was terrible.
Yeah,
That was a bad one.
That one will stay with me forever.
I think my worst one obviously was Wesley Allen Dodd. That was hard to record. And even listening back, I get, it's cringe. But I got to tell you, this, and I've known about this story for a very long time, but it came back up in the news here a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, why haven't we done this story yet? So I want to tell you all about Jamie Rose Bolin today. Have you heard of her?
Anything is possible, but I also don't do very good with names. Like the story that fucked me up so much, you could not
You don't
get me
remember
to
their
say
names.
their names.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so Jamie Rose Bolin, she was born on August the 7th, 1995 to Curtis and Jennifer. She was born in Edmond, Oklahoma, and she had 3 half-siblings, Josh, Sarah, and Lori.
I thought you were going to say Edmonton. And I was like, oh.
Right, Edmond,
Local.
Oklahoma. So all of her half-siblings were her mother Jennifer's kids from different relationships, and all different relationships. Jen and Curtis were off and on again for various reasons, but a lot of their issues started after Jennifer decided to pursue her childhood dream of driving by becoming a long-haul truck driver. No judgment, but
Pays
okay.
good. Pays good.
Okay.
Pay
Absolutely.
is good.
I don't know that I would choose that over raising my kids, but no judgment.
That's very misogynistic.
It's not really how I roll, but okay. No judgment. So she gave full custody of all of her different children to each of their different fathers so that she could drive trucks, which would put her out of town for the majority of the time. She intended on seeing her children when she wasn't working, but Jennifer unfortunately got introduced to substances while she was on the road. Many truck stops are known for being easy places to buy and deal drugs, and Jennifer ended up becoming hooked on meth during this time.
Damn. Like straight to meth? Did she ease in? Dip her toe in?
I don't know. I would suspect she was maybe a pot smoker. It is the gateway drug, but
Oh my God.
I don't.
This is sounding like
I don't know.
very
And I mean,
interesting
very, very
podcast.
small part of the story because Curtis was a good dad. Like, he's a decent human being, and he was a good dad. So Curtis wanted to shield their daughter Jamie from all of that as much as possible, and he was said to have been extremely involved and loving and attentive, and he was a fantastic father as a single parent. He really had no choice, but he was obviously doing a pretty good job because everyone who knew Jamie said that she was a happy, silly, carefree little girl. She loved to sing and sew, ride four-wheelers, watch movies. Jamie and her dad would love to play checkers together.
How old? Sorry, was she?
She's 10 years old at this
10?
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Word.
Yeah. She was also obsessed with reading. Jamie looked just as vibrant as her personality, too. She had these really gorgeous blue eyes and adorable freckles. She got the name Coppertop or Strawberry Shortcake for her fiery red hair. She was primarily raised in the city called Dibble, but when she was in the 4th grade, Curtis decided to move them to Purcell. Purcell is in a suburban area that is located right outside of Oklahoma City, located in Malin County, and is known as the heart of Oklahoma. It's said to be a small town with a tight-knit community. So Curtis and Jamie got an apartment in a complex called Purcell Park. Jamie began attending 5th grade at Purcell Intermediate School. She was one of those girls that never had a bad word to say about anyone, and her lightheartedness just made people want to be her friend. Jamie loved going to school and socializing with her classmates. She was said to find something funny in any situation and just had a very infectious laugh that could instantly put anyone in a good mood. That totally reminds me of you. Just saying. Now, since she was such an avid reader, she was also very intelligent, and she won several academic awards. Jamie not only had friends at school, but she had a close group of friends with her Girl Scout troop as well. She was really just a well-rounded, beautiful little girl, and it's no wonder that she was so loved by everyone who knew her. One of her favorite things was to ride her little blue bike. Oh, it was purple, but through the breezeways of the apartment building. Do you know what a breezeway is?
Like a stepped on path.
I feel like in my head,
It's almost like a bike trail.
like an apartment complex. There's that kind of green space. Sometimes you've got.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a breezeway.
Yeah, that's like
what's
kind
in
of
my head.
stomped on. People use it.
Yeah, but it's like it's an area, and it would be easy to ride a little bike around.
We could be so wrong.
We could be, and I probably should have Googled it. My bad, but I didn't.
Whatever.
So here we go.
It doesn't matter.
So Jamie was also known as. So, have you ever heard of a latchkey kid?
Latchkey kid?
Yeah.
No.
So these are kids who, their parents were usually working. They were gone when they got home from school, so they would carry a house key around their neck. So they were coined with the term latchkey kid. I think it kind of goes to a sense of freedom. They didn't have to go to a day home or take a school bus home and be looked after. She was able to get herself to school and home and had a key around her neck so she could let herself in and out of the apartment.
This had to have been like back in the day anyway, right?
2006.
Yeah, so we were all that kid.
Yeah.
That latchkey, whatever. So
Right.
I get it. Didn't need no babysitter.
That's right. Responsible. And if they didn't have it around their neck, usually their parents would hide it outside under a planter or carpet or something. But anyways, they had access to a key for themselves. When they got home from school or whatever and their parents weren't home, they could still get in. So Curtis worked as a mechanic, and he would usually only be a few hours at the most getting home from work after Jamie already had arrived. The residents of Purcell Park would often keep their porch doors open or sit outside on their porch balconies, but Curtis really didn't know any of them well, other than recognizing their faces and saying hello every now and then. Jamie, however, who was frequently playing outside and had a habit of striking up conversations with the neighbors, mostly out of boredom, and because she was just one of those chatty kids, she knew a lot of the neighbors. Curtis and Jamie lived on the 2nd floor, but one of her favorite neighbors was a young guy who she had met on the 1st floor. He was in his 20s and always had his pet white rat sitting on his shoulder. A rat.
You know how they say, like, you look like your pet? Did he look like his pet?
I don't think, not to me. Not to me.
Fair.
But Jamie thought this was, like I said, the cutest thing ever, in Alberta, in Canada, where we live, it's illegal to have rats are not allowed here. We have no rats in Alberta.
Was it a rat or was it a mouse?
No, it's a rat.
Who the fuck has a rat?
This guy.
Rats are illegal, period. Not even just a pet. They're not allowed here.
It's twisted. It's twisted. To me, it's twisted, but whatever.
For him to be allowed to have a rat, yeah, not for us to ban rats, because rats are rats. So
Yeah. Yeah, gross. So the guy was kind of quiet, but was friendly when spoken to, and he let Jamie pet the rat whenever she saw him. He was one of the neighbors who would occasionally leave the breezeway or patio door open, and Jamie had just even wandered into his apartment a few times asking to see the rat. He would never get upset with Jamie, but Curtis had told Jamie that if she was going to go into anyone's houses, she needed to ask his permission first. He told her definitely not to go in anyone's houses when he wasn't home, especially because they didn't have a working house phone at that time, so she wouldn't even be able to call and ask for permission from him. So if Curtis wasn't home, she was not allowed to go visiting neighbors, no matter what.
I assume this guy wasn't on no lists.
No, nothing.
First timer.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going to happen. I can just assume.
So the week of April the 10th, 2006 was an exciting time for Jamie and her classmates because Sunday the 16th was Easter. And most of them would be getting baskets from the Easter Bunny or dyeing Easter eggs, having Easter egg hunts, and just fun times with their families. And Jamie was really excited, not just for Easter, but she would be getting to spend time with her mother. By April of 2006, Jennifer had now been clean and sober for just over a year. She was getting her life back together, and that meant spending more time with her children as well. The beginning of the week started out great for Jamie, especially because Curtis let them get pizza one night for dinner. Because they didn't have a house phone, Jamie or Curtis would usually go outside to a payphone just across from their apartment building to call and make phone calls, whatever. So Curtis told Jamie that she could go and order the pizza herself. So she ran down the stairs of the building to go use the payphone. When she got to the downstairs area, breezeway, the young man with the rat was outside of his apartment, and Jamie just figured she could ask him to use his phone. He told her that she could, so she stepped inside the door for a second, but when he brought her the cordless phone, she told him that she better take it outside because her dad didn't like her going into other people's apartments. The neighbor understood, and she was obviously obedient and tried her best to listen to her dad. So she was obviously getting more and more comfortable with this neighbor.
Trusted him.
So Wednesday, April the 12th was a typical day for Jamie. Curtis usually drove her to school in the morning, so she'd walk home from school and let herself into the apartment with her key. She'd go inside, get a snack, maybe change her clothes before taking their dog out to use the bathroom. And then she was supposed to go back in and do her homework before she could go play or ride her bike outside through the breezeway until her dad got home. However, that Wednesday, after walking all the way home, Jamie realized that she had forgotten her house key at school. She was hot and tired, but her bike was outside, just leaning against the wall of their building, so she decided to ride her bike back to the school to get the key. After riding and finding the key, she decided to hang out with a friend for a little while in the library before going back home. They played some games on a computer before the other girl's mother came to pick her up, and she later recalled watching Jamie wave goodbye as she rode away on her bike. When Jamie got back home, it was about 3:30 p.m., and before going up to her apartment, she saw the same downstairs neighbor outside, and she told him how annoyed she was about having to go all the way back to school because it was so hot outside. Jamie then went upstairs to change her clothes. She got a mug of ice milk. After cooling down for a few minutes, she decided she wanted to go back outside and play in the breezeways. Now, Curtis got home from work that evening around 5 o'clock. He didn't see Jamie outside, but when he got into their apartment, she wasn't inside either. He noticed that their dog seemed like he really needed to go to the bathroom too, which meant that Jamie must have forgotten to take him out. He was a little surprised that Jamie would have gone away from their building. When he took the dog outside, he saw that her bike was gone as well. So Curtis figured that she probably found some kids to play with and was riding her bike around the complex or playing with them in the courtyard. Either way, he put the dog back inside and decided to go walk around the complex to find her. He didn't see any kids around, and he called her name loudly through the complex, but there was no sign of Jamie. Trying to stay calm, Curtis thought that maybe Jamie had gone to the library, but usually if she stayed there after school, she would have been home by now. So he quickly drove to the library, and he was told that Jamie had been there with a friend, but that she had left a little after 3 p.m. So now Curtis started to get more and more worried with each passing minute. He drove to Jamie's best friend's neighborhood. Jamie's friend Carissa, I believe her name is, told Curtis that she had seen Jamie ride her bike back toward the direction of their apartment. Now at this point, obviously, Curtis was becoming absolutely frantic, and he raced back to the apartment to see if she had gotten home yet. He then went to the apartment manager for help, and the manager went with him door to door in the complex, asking anyone and everyone if they had seen Jamie. Around 5:45 p.m., one of the neighbors who lived in the same building arrived home and saw Curtis and the manager worriedly knocking on doors, so he asked them what was going on. They told him that they couldn't find Curtis's daughter, and they wondered if he had seen her. The neighbor told them that he had actually seen her before he was leaving his house around 4 o'clock. He said that she was standing in the downstairs breezeway talking to that young man who has the pet rat. Curtis and the manager hurried over to his unit and knocked on the door, but they got no answer right away. But right as they were about to walk away, the man opened the door and asked if everything was okay. They said they were looking for Jamie and wondered if he had seen her or where she went. He told them that he had seen her earlier in the day and that she left on her bike, riding in the direction of the library. He then said that he wished he could help look for her, but he had to be up really early in the morning and needed to go to bed. At that point, they realized that something must have happened to Jamie after she rode away on her bike. So now they call 911 and report her missing. Very soon, dozens of police officers, firefighters, community members, and neighbors were scouring the area looking for any sign of Jamie and her bike. They searched through the night. Curtis needed to call Jennifer and let her know that their daughter was missing. Jennifer was driving a semi at the time when she got that call, and remembers that when Curtis told her Jamie was missing, it was like her brain completely left her body. She ended up drifting onto the shoulder with only half of the huge truck on the road. She was so upset that she had to be driven by friends back to Purcell. The next morning, the Purcell Police Department realized that they weren't going to be able to do this on their own. So not even one day into their investigation, they requested assistance from the FBI, who joined the search without hesitation. When they arrived, they added over 24 federal agents to aid in the search, and they began to question people for leads. Back at the library, several people swore that they saw a redhead little girl matching Jamie's description get into a dark blue Chevy Tahoe with Texas license plates and a large Fox Racing sticker on the back window. So with a potential vehicle description, the state issued an Amber Alert for Jamie and the Chevy Tahoe. The FBI decided to analyze the computers that Jamie and her friend had been using and believed that she could have possibly been chatting with an online predator before her disappearance. So while the search continued, Jamie's whole family gathered together and sat outside of the apartment building on the lawn chairs, waiting for any news and hoping that she would miraculously ride up the road on her bike.
Unfortunately, that's all you would be able to do.
Well, for sure. On April 14th, 2 days after Jamie went missing, the FBI and the police department worked together to set up roadblocks on streets surrounding the apartment complex. They hoped they could get leads from drivers in the area who may have seen something around the time when Jamie went missing. At around 3:45, an FBI agent was questioning drivers in one of the roadblocks, and he came across a person who had some information about Jamie. The truck was being driven by an older man with a young adult male passenger. The driver told the agent that he had heard about the little girl going missing, and he mentioned that the passenger was his son and that his son was actually Jamie's neighbor.
Like in the same building?
Yeah.
Neighbor. That guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the agent remembered him from questioning people at the complex that a young man was the last person to see Jamie before she rode away on her bike. So he asked if the young man would come into the patrol car and talk for a moment so that he could write down everything that he saw before Jamie went missing. Of course, the neighbor agreed, and his father waited in his truck while they went to talk. The neighbor told the agent that his name was Kevin Underwood, and he lived below and across from the little girl and her father. Further into their conversation, Kevin started to say things that really piqued the agent's curiosity. He said that he had been afraid of being considered a suspect because he had been hanging around outside his apartment a lot during the last couple of weeks. He then said that he saw Jamie the day that she went missing, but that the media reports of the clothes that she was wearing were incorrect. The agent asked if he would be willing to come to the police station to give more of an in-depth description, because Jamie being in other clothes other than what she was seen on at school could potentially be a very important piece of information and piece of evidence in their investigation. So Kevin agreed, and the agent told his father that he would give him a ride home after the interview. So they got to the station. Kevin started talking unprompted to the agents about how he wasn't the best at talking to people. He said that he had panic attacks and social anxiety, but he was on Lexapro, which was helping him with that. The agents asked him what kind of clothes he saw Jamie in, and he said that the media reported that she was wearing a pink shirt, but that when he saw her, she was actually wearing a blue shirt and pink shorts. After that, he said he went inside of his apartment and chatted online to a friend for a couple of hours.
Okay, wait. Mm-hmm. So, this is the FBI agent who came across him?
That's right.
So that means it must have taken them they probably went really fast, but it must have taken them like a second to get there. It took him that long to correct the last thing that she was wearing, if he's even telling the truth. That alone would be suspicious.
Changed into a blue shirt, except for the last guy who saw her,
and
which is this guy.
You're counting on witnesses. You're counting on people like him around who would have known that to correct it. And for him to sit on that information, even though there was obviously a fact that she was missing, he should have volunteered that information immediately. Because you're not going to tell me that you missed the media saying redhead girl.
And on the Amber
Alert
Alert.
Or whatever.
And on the Amber Alert.
Yeah. So that's why they're deep diving on this moron.
Mm-hmm.
He withheld information, and that makes you suspicious, even if the information isn't damning. If you're holding on to information right away, obviously you have something else to hide.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin ended up talking to the agents for about an hour before they stepped out into the hallway and agreed that they were getting some weird vibes from this guy. They went back in and said that they were finished and that one of them could take him back to his apartment. When they arrived at the apartment, the agent decided to take a chance and ask Kevin if he could come in and look around his apartment, just so they could say that they had looked everywhere in the complex. Kevin agreed to the search, but the agent had no idea that something in the apartment would send this case into a disturbing direction that nobody saw coming. Now,
was the shirt on?
All right.
Ooh, okay, now you'll get into it, whatever.
I'll get into it, and I know how you think, and I have background like Kevin Underwood's life and times, the life story of Kevin Underwood, but I don't know, because I want to play his confession a little bit later, and that's a little bit lengthy. So I don't know if I want to waste my breath telling the listeners about this guy, other than he was born on December 19th, 1979. He had a job at the time. He worked at a grocery store with his dad.
Sounds like he was a criminal of...
He wasn't a criminal. He was just a very...
No. It's a very specific way of saying it. It's a criminal of opportunity. That's what he was.
Planned opportunity, though. Like, he had so many dark, twisted fantasies in his head. Mm-hmm. And I think, like,
like, if that little girl wasn't getting so close to him and his rat, would he have went through with it? I think the opportunity striked him a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Over
However, he had been planning to take anyone,
did he?
not specifically her, anyone. Even he considered adults. He considered little boys. Just
What
he wanted to do this. He had cannibalistic and necrophilic fantasies.
So he was sick and twisted.
It was very sick and twisted. He was on medication for anxiety and stuff like that, but he was able to hold down a job. And he was also, he never really had a girlfriend, but he had this online thing with a woman named Melissa, and I believe she was off in Florida, but they had this long distance thing going on, and he had made some really disturbing comments to her over the years. But one of the last things that he had said to her was that if I don't have sex with someone soon, I'm going to kill somebody. And
I feel like a lot of men have said something similar to that, if not that exact same thing.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Red flag, yes, but then again, so is everything.
Did I mention that this guy named his pet rat Freya? The rat's name was Freya. So, yeah.
Oh, she's a girl dragon. Just kidding.
Right. So anyways, like I said, I don't really feel the need to get into who Kevin Underwood was as a person. It doesn't really matter. He had a decent upbringing. His siblings are fine. His parents are normal. There was really no, like, he has since been diagnosed with Asperger's, but nothing, like, and schizotypal disorder.
Okay, so he's a little fucked up.
Yeah, he has mental issues, but it was
That's
more
a
his
lot.
isolation and his addiction to porn
Yeah.
and his addiction to gore sites and stuff that I think drove his fantasy world, and it became overpowering because in my mind he was just a weak individual who couldn't get laid to save his life.
If he had Asperger's, though, then he didn't know right from wrong fully.
He did.
So when he first started going down those roads, if he has it, if he actually does have that, they don't always know what's socially acceptable.
Totally.
Actually, they don't.
And I feel like, just circling back to the Wesley Allen Dodd, it wasn't a confession, it was his diary that we were trying desperately to read.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, as disturbing as that diary is,
It was like a manuscript, though.
yeah, this guy's confession is so candid and descriptive.
Even more so than his God?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I like it. Yeah.
And did he do it while he was doing the stuff, or did he write it later?
No,
Maybe.
he confessed to the police, like this night.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting into it.
But you say you wrote it down? No.
Oh, he blogged
Oh.
a couple of things, but not about the crime itself. No.
I see. Never mind. I thought you meant he kept a diary like Dodd.
No, because I kept, when I was listening to his, and I was considering doing this episode and playing the confession, I was like, now this is pretty sick and twisted, and the only thing to me that we've ever done close to that is the Dodd diary,
Yeah.
which we struggled through, but I don't got to say these words. I explained in that episode that I can read it, I can listen to it, I can hear it, but I can't say the words for some reason. But he says them without a problem. And I'll play a bit of the confession here in a little bit and see if you want to continue. The other option is to link the 3 parts in the show notes. But
Yeah, we'll make that call. We'll see.
We'll make
see.
the call,
You've
yeah.
piqued my interest.
oh, it's okay. Let's move on. So,
Let's
anyways,
get
Kevin agreed, and he and the officer went inside together. So the officer looked around the apartment, which was cluttered, full of trash, video game boxes, food containers, and books.
Yeah.
He also had a display of some kind with a samurai sword and decorative knives, like the kind you might see at a Renaissance fair. So they went back into Kevin's bedroom, where he had the computer desk set up and an office chair. There was a large walk-in closet in the bedroom, and the officer asked Kevin if he could go in there to take a look. Kevin agreed, and when the officer went in, he was hit by the overwhelming scent of decay, blood, whatever. He
Why was he so nonchalant? Yeah, come on in.
Just kind of calling their bluff, playing the innocent like the helpful, so that maybe they'll go away and leave him alone.
That's so stupid.
So the officer noticed a bluish gray Rubbermaid tub that had duct tape around the lid. And when the officer asked Kevin what was in the tub, Kevin said that it was his comic book collection. So the officer asked Kevin if he could open it, and Kevin nervously said yes. But as the officer started to pull away the tape, Kevin yelled, "Stop! Just arrest me."
Okay, wait. I feel like I've seen a video of this.
Not body cam.
But it can't be the same video because the guy...
I know what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And
that was more recent.
The exact same thing happened.
Yeah, except it wasn't a kid, it was a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, come on in, search everything. Well, I'd rather you not look in there.
Yeah.
But you, like, whatever.
Yeah, well, you're either going to let us look in there or we're going to arrest you.
Yeah. And then he's like, just arrest me, I'm guilty. But he goes for a while being like, yeah, look wherever you want. I'd rather you not go in there, though.
Right up until the officer started pulling the tape to lift that lid, and then all of a sudden it's like, just stop,
Wait, you're actually going to look in it? Like, that's crazy. I thought you were bluffing. What the fuck? Why are you doing this to me? Because you're a piece of shit, obviously, and you're very suspicious. Okay. Anyway, keep going.
So then the officer looked up at Kevin and said, "Where is she, Kevin?" And he responded, "She's in there. I chopped her up." He then started crying, "Oh my God, I'm going to burn in hell." The officer didn't even finishing opening up the box when he put handcuffs on Kevin and called for backup, telling them that he believed he found Jamie.
Girl.
When the other officers and FBI agents arrived, some took Kevin back to the police station, but the main officer on the scene realized that he still hadn't even looked inside that tub yet to confirm it was Jamie inside. So he went back into the closet, cut the tape off the lid, and took the lid off. Inside the tub were clothes that matched what Kevin had told them Jamie had been wearing earlier, the blue top, pink shorts. Under that was a black plastic bag. The detective cut open the bag and discovered Jamie's lifeless body inside.
Cut up?
No.
Oh. Why he say he cut her up?
You'll see.
Okay.
Curtis, so when Jamie's family was told the news, they were beyond distraught.
Obviously.
Curtis actually, he even had to be taken to the hospital, and he was sedated for several days. And I gotta tell you, 2 weeks ago, there was a press conference. He is still inconsolable. All these years later, like this poor man. So at that point, no one had any clue how heinous the situation actually was. When crime scene investigators arrived, they began processing the scene. In the closet, there was one box filled with children's toys and another filled with adult sex toys and women's underwear. Back at the station, FBI agents informed Kevin of his rights, but he told them that he wanted to tell them everything that happened. They tried to remind him that he had the right to have an attorney present, but he was adamant that he just wanted to get everything off his chest. And I know police officers will say that, but this is all on recording. I'm not going to play the whole confession, obviously, but you get to see all of this on videotape that he's saying, "No, I don't need a lawyer. I understand my rights. Where do I sign? I just want to get this over with." He did it. So the interview was recorded and has been posted online, and it's honestly, like I said, one of the most disturbing confessions I've ever heard. In fact, I think, to me, the most disturbing confession I've ever heard because of his cadence when he's doing it. How just, glad to get this off my chest, and you guys really seem interested in what I'm telling you here. Let me tell you more. But wait, there's more. And then I did this, and he did.
It's giving Asperger's.
It's just beyond anything I've ever heard.
My experience with it, anyway.
Yeah. So, and for someone who had such a hard time talking to people due to extreme social anxiety, Kevin had no problem going into great detail about what he did to Jamie and why.
Yeah. The anxiety was probably coming from him trying to hide a part of himself. And less so an actual real anxiety. So the chance to talk freely about something that he had done, I can only imagine what that interview sounds like. Probably horrible.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm going to do now, I'm just having a look here. But so to get just a really quick rundown of what Kevin told investigators that night before we play the confession, I just kind of went to like a wiki summary of his confession. So according to Kevin, Jamie had walked home from school after a school event, which there was no event. It was just she forgot her key, so she had to go back. But and her father was not home at that time due to his late working hours. Underwood, Kevin, intercepted her and lured her into his apartment under the promise of playing with his pet rat. He then turned SpongeBob SquarePants on the TV for her to watch. In the confession, he says he always has Nickelodeon on the TV, and SpongeBob SquarePants was there. She was there with her ice milk and sat down, was petting the rat and watching SpongeBob, just having a little chit chat with Kevin. He then in a sudden attack, he hit her on the back of the head several times with a wooden cutting board. Following that, he suffocated her with his bare hands. He told agents that approximately 15 or 20 minutes passed before she died. And he gets into excruciatingly detailed confession.
So like she was fighting, I'm assuming.
She was. And or he's a weakling, a pussy ass bitch.
That or was he purposefully making it last longer? Okay.
No, very out of shape, very not wanting it to go on like that, very not intentional.
Understood.
Right. So 15, 20 minutes passed before she had died. He then attempted to rape Jamie's little body, but he was unable to sexually perform. He then moved her to the bathtub and attempted to decapitate her with a knife, but was also unsuccessful in that. He wrapped Jamie's body in plastic sheeting and placed it in a large plastic container, which he hid in his closet. His plan, which we'll hear about, was to butcher her and eat her to get rid of the body. That was his plan, to dispose of the body.
Yeah.
He had also dismantled Jamie's bicycle and hid it inside his apartment to make it look as if she had left the apartment complex completely. So police searched for Jamie, and after she failed to return to the apartment, the search ended on April 14th when they found her body. This is, like I said, I'm just reading this off a wiki page. So FBI agents also found that disassembled, as I said, purple bike. They found meat tenderizer and skewers. And back when he said, she's in there, I hit her and chopped her up. He said, just arrest me. I'm going to burn in hell. When he was saying that stuff to the officer in his apartment, apparently he started hyperventilating and was visibly upset. So an autopsy showed that Jamie's throat had been cut from ear to ear, and I dare to say it was a little bit worse than that when we get into the confession, but otherwise her body was intact. The autopsy report said that Jamie probably died from lack of oxygen, which makes sense to what Kevin had said about suffocating her.
Oh, like what had happened leading up.
Mm-hmm. So he confessed that he had prepared for months to carry out his sexual and cannibalistic fantasies. He said he chose Jamie because she was convenient. In his confession, he said that his original plan was to cut off his victim's head and set it on his desk so it could, watch me, he said. He said he wanted to keep the corpse in his bed, sleeping with it and having sex with it for a day or two before he butchered it and cooked it. So like I said, that's the wiki rundown of the confession, but I'd like to play some of it for you. trigger warning. This is...
If you don't want to listen to it, then maybe the story is over for you.
We're not a podcast that censors ourselves, and this information is out there. I am not, I'm not exploiting anything or anybody by playing this, but if you want to see it, like, it's a very scratchy video, whatever, but it is a video, and it's a 3-parter, but it's from the Oklahoma News Archive. I will go ahead and link the confession into the show notes. But again, trigger warning, it's vile, it's disgusting, it's hard to hear if you're not as desensitized as I am, and I'm hoping Bree is.
Most people listening to true crime podcasts, or this podcast this long, are going to be fine, I think. But they've had their warning.
You put on my head where you hit her.
I was standing behind her, so yeah, it was probably about like that, something like that.
Okay, right here.
Yeah, maybe down farther on the side. It was probably kind of the side top, but because I think I did it with this hand. No, it was probably this hand because I'm right-handed, and that was my stronger hand. So yeah, it was probably this. Right
And you were behind her.
Yeah, I was behind her, and just whack.
And she was where?
Sitting in the floor, like in front of the TV
Okay.
and the rat cage.
Okay.
It was right up against the rat cage almost. I had to kind of wait for her to get in a position. I didn't want her to like fall over on the rat cage. But so I whacked her with that, and she's like, ow, and started crying, and she's like, oh God, I'm sorry, my God, I'm sorry, and just saying I'm sorry over and over mostly. And so I whacked her again, and she jumped up, and I couldn't believe it didn't knock her out. I hit her. It's all kind of a blur once it started happening, but I hit her, I think 3 times, maybe 4. But
With each time with the same cutting board?
yeah,
As hard as you could.
yeah. I mean, every time I got harder, because I was like,
She's not going down.
yeah. So I'm like, why isn't she unconscious here?
Because you think when you hit somebody, hey, they're going to go. Because you see it on TV.
Yeah.
Did she
That-
resist?
Yeah, she, like I said, she jumped. She was yelling, "God, I'm sorry," and let me go. I won't tell. And I mean, after I hit her a couple times, I finally just had to jump up and grab her, and I couldn't believe how strong she was. I barely held her down. I like to never got her down to the ground. I mean, I had to, I didn't want to choke her because, like I said, I wanted the body to be pretty much perfect. So I didn't want to leave the marks around her neck or anything. So I just climbed my hand over.
Were you behind her? Or were you looking
Yeah.
did you have her on the ground?
No, I was, like I said, she got up and was trying to run around, and I grabbed her from behind and was kind of hugging her with her mouth over her hand over her mouth and nose. And eventually, after she started getting weaker and stuff, and I mean, we flopped around. I've got pretty bad carpet burns on my knees from it because I said she put up a.
Is that and just for me to understand? Let's see. This is your right leg.
Both of them, but this one's the worst.
So you were wearing shorts at the time?
Yeah.
And you're telling me this is from the incident with.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you were on.
Yeah, it's from struggling.
You were struggling
struggling with her on the ground. Because then, once I finally got her down to the ground. Finally got her. I mean, we struggled. It took me probably 15, 20 minutes to kill her. To get her completely dead. Because then, even after, well, anyway, I struggled with her for a minute. Finally got her down to the ground on her stomach, and so I was kind of sitting on her back, with my mouth over. Or no, she was on her back. Yeah, but I was sitting on her, clamping my hand.
So you were looking down at her face and you were covering her mouth.
Yeah, kind of sitting on her, not really putting my full weight on her. Kind of like on my knees with a little bit of my weight on her stomach to hold her down. And
did you feel aroused at that point?
very, yeah. By the time I got done killing her, my underwear was soaked. When you get aroused, it'll start, kind of leaking a little.
Pre-ejaculation.
Yeah, it was. My underwear was pretty much soaked by the time she, even before she was completely dead. But,
So are you telling me you were sexually gratified during this struggle?
pretty much, yeah.
Did you have an orgasm,
I
or
didn't-
was it just?
I didn't orgasm, but I was, very, very aroused.
You had an erection.
Yeah. And, just standing there behind her debating on killing her or not, I was starting to get an erection. But anyway, then she still, once she was down on the floor, she kept me almost slipping out of my grip, and she ended up She ended up, on her stomach at one point. Yeah, she ended up on her stomach, because I remember there's a toolbox sitting there by the edge of the love seat. And, as kind of in like her last moment, she just started kind of reaching around, grabbing things, and she like opened that toolbox. And then she pretty much went limp, and I laid there on her for a good, couple of minutes more to make sure she was dead, because she'd still, every now and then, because, clamping through she could still get kind of a little bit of air sometimes through her fingers if my grip slipped a little bit. So I laid there for a while, and finally was pretty sure she was dead. Flopped her over, and then about 30 seconds later, she took a breath. So I had to jump on her and do it again. It took probably several more, it probably wasn't as long as it seemed like, but it seemed like it took her another 5 minutes to get her limp then. And then finally, when I was pretty sure she was dead again, I jumped up and grabbed the duct tape and put it over her mouth and nose, because I was getting tired. My arms were getting sore from clamping down on her for so long.
So you could give her a tight seal on her lips. That way you wouldn't have to hold her anymore.
Yeah.
You could ensure it was gone.
Yeah, I could make sure she didn't start breathing again this time.
Okay.
And then, once I got her taped up, I drug her into the bedroom so I could open the front door and wheel her bike in.
Where'd you put her when you put her in the bedroom?
Just there in the floor, like between the computer desk and the bed. I just wheeled her kind of right through the door, far enough that I could close the door so I could open the front door without anyone seeing. That was the main, what I thought, all along was like the main flaw in my plan, because with my plan to eat her and everything, it seemed like the bike was going to be a lot harder to dispose of than the body.
So you'd given some thought about, hey, I got to get rid of this bike.
Yeah. And then I never, like I said, I never actually had sex with her. But after I got her bike in, she was laying there in the bedroom, and I stripped her clothes off of her.
Where'd you put the clothes after you took them off?
At that time, I just threw them in the floor, and they were all wet and smelly. She'd wet herself when I was choking her. But I took her clothes off and licked her a little, and kind of smelled her, and I kind of got the tip of my penis, but that was it, because I was going to try to have sex with her right there. But
When you say in her, can you describe what body part that would be?
Her, I didn't even, like I said, I just kind of, I was going to, but the way she was laying right on the floor, I couldn't really get to her very good, so I just kind of tip of my penis kind of rubbed her a bit. It might have, as far as DNA goes, there might be some of that pre-ejaculate on her, but.
Did you take all your clothes off?
Yeah, as soon as I got the bike in, I stripped myself down, then stripped her down, and was going to have sex with her, and found out I couldn't, so I was going to move her. Move her into the living room onto the couch, where I had a big beach towel. It's in the box with her, a big red beach towel that I had bought, and so I was going to drag her in there to the living room, but she. Big for her age. Paper said she's 110 pounds, and I was having a hard time, flopping her over and rolling her around and dragging her around. So I decided just at that point, because that was the reason I'd always wanted to. My plan had always been to behead them while they were alive, was so the blood would coagulate and I could get all the blood out, like you would when you butcher an animal. And, that way, so both of the meat wouldn't be bloody, and so when I put her in my bed, hopefully she wouldn't leak any blood out on the bed and stuff. And so I was like, well, it's a lot closer, and I don't want, she's already been dead maybe 10, 15 minutes, and so I don't want the blood to get all coagulated, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag her into the tub and behead her, and then have sex with her body. And I got her in there, draped over the side of the tub, which, I thought I was stronger than that, but I could barely get her up on that tub. And got a big knife. It wasn't a butcher knife. It's one of the knives in my collections. Well, it's the only knife in my collection, really. It's this big, ornate, dagger. And it always seemed like it was pretty sharp, so that's what I was going to use. And I got her in there and propped her over the tub, she was out of the tub with, just her head, over the edge, hanging into the tub. And I, kind of got her, I put a rubber band in her hair so it'd be out of the way, and because I didn't even want to, like I said, I wanted the body perfect and clean. I didn't want to get blood all in her hair, so I'd have to wash it and everything. And so I started sawing at her neck. I couldn't believe the amount of blood that came out of a girl that small, and it was already all clotted and everything.
You had trouble sawing her head off.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was trying to remember where I was. Yeah, I went, got I guess to her spine, and I just sawed and could not get it at last. And I was pretty much exhausted by then. And like I said, as soon as I hit her, I wished I hadn't started this, but as soon as I hit her the first time, I was like, well, now it's too late. I can't stop now. Yeah. I mean, that was the only reason I even went through with any of it. And then, like I said, I was disgusted at first, but then once I was climbing down on top of her, holding her down, choking her, I got aroused again. But so at this point, I was just disgusted. I was like, God, this mess. And because I couldn't even keep the blood in the tub. It was running down her and right down the side of the tub into the floor. And I was like, at this point, I'm just clean up this mess and get the body out of here. I'm not even going to have sex with her.
Okay.
And so I was already pretty upset. I can't believe I did this. Wish I hadn't did it. Wish I could take it back.
Right.
And that container,
That container,
I was be like,
I call it a tub. I'm sorry.
I was the plan. The plan all along for disposing of the bones was to use that duffel bag thing, but then I was hoping I'd still get the body in there, but I got her and realized, well, no, she's way too big for this, and I liked to never even got her in that tub because
was the duffel bag, was it bought for this plan too?
No, I'd had the duffel bag for several years.
Okay. I'm sorry, Rob.
But anyway, and when I said from about 4 to, I was probably more like 5 to 6:30. I was online talking to that girl in California while the half beheaded corpse was sitting there in the sitting up propped against the tub draining, because I just kind of went about my business with this. I closed the door because the bathroom, because like I said, I was sick, sick to my stomach that I'm doing this. I didn't even want to see the corpse, and I just kind of closed it up in the bathroom with some incense burning to cover up the vomit smell from going up the air vent, because I
smelled like vomit where she was coming out.
Yeah, the stomach contents were leaking out of her neck when I tried to move her, because I can often smell things coming from other people's apartments when they're cooking something strong, and I didn't want people to smell the blood and vomit, so I put some strong incense burning in there and closed all the doors, and I just sat there at the computer for a couple hours, talking to her. I wasn't talking much because I was feeling really sick and really bad. I mean, I was literally physically sick, partially from what I did, and partially I was wore out and sweating and hot from the exertion, and I don't do well in warm temperatures. It's just sitting there in that was part of what was making me sick, sitting back there in that office, because it was, even in here it's too hot for me. It feels pretty good in here, but I grew up in a house, my parents kept it like 70 degrees pretty much all the time in the house, so anything over 70 degrees I start to get hot. So I was, just sick to my stomach about the vomit, but I was sitting there at the computer talking to her until, well, then about that same time, I was talking to her, but I was also occasionally stepping outside, helping them look for the girl, stuff like that, kind of setting it up an alibi there, and acting like I was all concerned about her missing.
When did you first notice they were looking for her?
Pretty much right after I killed her, I looked out and I noticed the dad got home a little early. It seemed like he was home before 5, I think, and it was probably about 5 or so. I noticed him out there starting to walk around and get in his truck and drive around, and then I went out there one of the times specifically so he could ask me, "Have you seen her?" and I could say no. And so he did, and I was like, and I told him the story. The last time I saw her come home from school. She went upstairs, came back down, got on her bike, rode off. That's the last time I saw her. And then, like I said, I was stepping out there occasionally, acting, like I was keeping a watch for her in case she came back while Dad was gone, and talking to the manager and all that and stuff. And, I hope they find her soon. It's horrible. Just kind of setting up and making myself look concerned, but not too concerned, because then that would make me look suspicious too. So. And then finally, about 8 o'clock or so, I told him, I'd like to stay out here and help, but I've got to get back to bed because I got to, work early in the morning. And then, I went inside and finally finished cleaning up the body, and it still bled everywhere, and I had to wash the tub out and wash the floor, scrub the floor.
When you to get the body in the tub, do you have to cut limbs off, or
No, she's not cut up at all except for the neck.
so you just basically compacted her body?
Yeah, and by that time, that was the reason I had such a hard time getting her into that, is because by that time she was already stiff, and she had been in like a kneeling position on the tub, so her legs were like all bent up like this. And, I couldn't get her knees to go down far enough to get the lid on. That was the main reason it was taped on at first, because it wouldn't go down far enough to snap on, so I snapped it on and taped it down so it'd stay snapped on. And then yesterday I went in there and, taped it more to seal it, and, in case it started smelling. The smells wouldn't get out. Smell out.
The clothes that you were wearing during all this, did you put those in the box with it?
No, I still wore them the next day, even though
So you didn't get much blood?
I didn't. Well, every time I'd go, I wore them when I was choking her. But then, when I was cleaning up the messes and cutting her head off and everything, I took my clothes back off.
So you were...
Except for a
Okay.
pair of underwear, a pair of gray underwear, which I think I stuck back in my underwear drawer. I didn't get anything on them either.
So it was just in the tub, it's just her body and the clothes she was wearing?
Her body, yeah.
The tub being the blue.
The blue.
Yeah, the blue.
blue. I call it a tub.
Yeah, but...
To be different from the
Yeah,
bathtub, but you're talking about the...
Talking about the blue tub.
like I said, I tried to move her, but she was still making a huge mess. So I got a tarp I had also bought for this purpose, but
How long ago was that?
about the same time I bought the tub, like the container. I bought it at the local Walmart, I think, though.
Okay.
But, what was I saying?
So that tarp is in there too?
Yeah, it's in a... So I went to move her, and she was bleeding everywhere, so I bought the tarp for the purpose of not getting blood, because I was going to have sex with him on the couch, but when I went to torture him and stuff, I was probably going to put him on the floor on the tarp, because there'd probably be some blood. And so I bought it for that, but then when I went to move her, I was like, I can't even move her, she's so heavy. So I'm going to try to flop her over onto this tarp, and maybe I can slide the tarp around a little better and wrap her up in that. So I kind of laid her on the tarp and folded it over a little, and then got her in some trash bags as good as I could.
Okay. And when I opened it up, I saw the blue shirt. Did you just like kind of put her clothes folded on top of all that stuff?
Afterwards, yeah, I put that red towel's on the bottom of the tub to soak up any blood or anything. Because at first I figured I'd just dump the body somewhere, wash the tub out, and bring it back. But then at the end, I was like, I don't even want to open the tub and look at this body again. I'm just going to drag the tub out to a field and set it on fire.
Yeah, no, he sounds like he's
Fucked.
yeah, he's got the mental illnesses that really do give you a weird ass quirk mixed with some evil tendencies happening there.
Yeah.
And he seems to think that they're relatively normal. It does.
Yeah.
The way he's talking about it, he
so
thinks it's normal.
nonchalant.
Yeah.
The things that he says is just,
Matter of fact.
and just, I don't even know.
He takes the emotion out of it.
He does. He's literally telling, like he's reading off a recipe or telling you how to take apart a bike
Yeah.
and how to murder a poor defenseless little girl, who, by the way,
It's more like he's not telling you how, but how hard it is.
yeah, and like she,
If anything, he's
fought
complaining.
like hell. Exactly. He is, like I said.
It took me fucking 20 minutes, bro.
Yeah.
And then after, she breathed again, and it took me another fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like complaining about it because
Like he's sick.
he totally underestimated her ability to defend
Fight
herself.
back. Yeah.
10-year-old little girl gave you a run for your money, you fucking idiot.
And it does sound like the way when he says that he hit her and then almost immediately kind of was like, well, fuck, I wish I didn't do that because this is like not maybe what I want to do.
Yeah.
But he has to because he took that first hit.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine that he was maybe he wasn't putting all of his effort into it either because of
He
that.
said, like in the beginning, at the end of that part 2, because we just played parts of part 3, But at the end of part 2, he actually said that he hit her with everything he had, and he
I know
couldn't
he said
believe he
that,
went down.
but I fully believe that if a grown-ass man hits a child in the head with a wooden cutting board, it's going to do a whole lot more damage than to allow her to run around like that. I think maybe he thought that, but I think when it comes down to it, like imagine you have a weapon in your hand. To me, the only thing that could ever cause me to swing on somebody like that is if like they were trying to murder me.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have it in me to give it all I have. Even if in my head I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, which obviously my head's not saying that, but
Yeah.
it's just, he was still a grown ass man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like he has some strength to him.
Yeah. So on February 29th, 2008. So this was a fairly quick process. The crime happened in 2006, and we've all heard those cases that drag on and on and on for years before they even go to trial. A jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, and they recommended the death penalty on March 7th, 2008. On April 3rd, 2008, the district judge approved the recommended death sentence. And of course, Kevin attempted to appeal, but because it would be unconstitutionally cruel and unusual punishment due to his mental illnesses, which he was initially diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder at his trial, but then later, like I said, he was also diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. An Oklahoma City federal judge rejected his appeal.
I'm sorry, so was he murdered by the state? Was he killed by the state?
I'm getting there right now. So yeah, the jury found him guilty. They only deliberated for 23 minutes, and obviously the quick verdict is attributed to the showing of the videotaped confession, and you guys just heard a piece of that audio. Links will be in the show notes to the whole thing, but yeah. So he was sentenced to death. And from what I read, Oklahoma was known for carrying out executions at a relatively quick rate. I don't have the exact numbers, but they were not known for delaying the process. So we've got people that are on death row for years and years and years. Oklahoma was never one of those states. They're like, they do 2-3 a month sometimes. They were putting people through that green mile.
Banging them out.
But due to 2 botched executions, there was a moratorium placed on executions in Oklahoma. But it was reinstated, I believe, in 2019. Don't quote me on that year, but it took years for them to feel like they had their shit together enough to reinstate the death penalty. So on July 1st, 2022, Kevin was one of 25 death row inmates to be scheduled for their execution in Oklahoma. He was initially scheduled to be executed on December 7th, 2023. His execution was later postponed due to a request by the Attorney General, who wanted to slow it down a little bit. They wanted to stop, banging him through. He wanted to slow it down. Not for Kevin Underwood specifically, just in general. He had asked for 60 days between executions rather than 30 to alleviate the burden of like the people that are involved in carrying out these executions. Right? I get it. And I mean, it was approved. He was granted that, not a stay, but whatever. So he did have Kevin Underwood did have a clemency hearing, and Kevin said, "I recognize that although I do not want to die, I deserve to for what I did. And if my death could change what I did, I would gladly die." Obviously, the clemency board, the parole board, they denied his appeal for clemency, and he was scheduled to die on December 13th, 2024. The parole board voted 3-0 against clemency. An attorney general and his assistants told the board that Kevin Underwood's crimes remain some of the most depraved and notorious in Oklahoma's history, which agreed. So here's some justice for you. Kevin Underwood was executed on December 19th, 2024 on his 45th birthday. Legit, they executed him on his birthday, just last month. That's why this came back up in the news.
Oklahoma, savage.
So his last meal consisted of chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, a cheeseburger with french fries and ketchup, pinto beans, a hot roll, and a Coke.
Damn, I don't know. I personally don't know how I feel about death row for that mentally ill of people. There's psychopaths, and then there's like mentally ill people. No, I guess you don't want them sitting on your taxes and your budgets, I suppose. So
For
maybe
me,
I
it's
do
got
understand
very little
it.
to do with that. It's about
But that's
the
what
risk.
that's what they look at when deciding like who to kill and what states allow to execute and da 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 da. It's like, and you're right. Are they going to offend again? But usually that comes into play more so with life in prison. That's also an option. Like I don't have any like huge emotional connection to it. Like it's like I don't really care. No offense to that guy. Well,
Don't-
or
for
offense,
sure.
whatever. I'm just surprised, is what I'm saying, that they still executed somebody who was maybe schizo, maybe this, maybe that.
The thing with criminally
Insane.
not responsible, is you don't have a criminal intent or the criminal mind. You don't understand the consequences of your actions or
But
right
he was
from wrong.
turned on by his
And
wrongs,
he
I guess.
knew.
Yeah.
He knew. He wasn't criminally insane, or however you want to put that. Now, death.
As a Canadian, I guess in general, I'm always going to have like a, damn, y'all just killed that guy. That's crazy. We could have somebody here who murders like 5 children and we don't kill them.
Yeah, and
So
I feel like there's a line, because there are a lot of people on death row in the United States who probably are guilty, or they don't have enough evidence to prove it. Like DNA confession,
But
whatever,
he just
whatnot.
told the whole story and laid it right out.
But there
That's
are
true.
these guys who she was found in his closet.
So
he
cut and
confessed.
dry.
So it's so cut and dry. If there was ever a case that deserved the death penalty, I'm sorry, but this, and there are a few others, but this definitely qualifies, in
Especially
my opinion.
when you're taking a young life, it definitely does. Like I said, I think it's just like the initial like surprise, especially living in just like a different country too.
And then if you think about it, like the opposite side of that, there is a benefit to wanting these guys to spend the rest of their lives in prison.
So that they are suffering.
They are
I
suffering,
agree.
they're thinking, and they're getting some form of prison justice. And
Then
I say
again,
that
he went
loosely.
into it saying, "I don't want to die," but so maybe that is enough of a punishment in the same.
Well, he did say that the decision, his final words, his final statement was, "The decision to execute me on my birthday and 6 days before Christmas was a needlessly cruel thing to do to my family. But I'm very sorry for what I did, and I wish I could take it back." He was reportedly crying silently during his execution.
At the very least, have some respect for your coworkers, and don't make them kill somebody 6 days before Christmas, if anything.
That's true. But like I said, like even at this time in 2024, Jamie's dad, Curtis, was still inconsolable.
Totally, but
After
what's
this execution.
January? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if somebody believes in like like the holy like maybe their job is that, but they have like their God and everything, and they're the one having to like flip the switch, and they're like, well, fuck, this is my job.
Yep.
That's probably all they could have thought about at Christmas. Or maybe it's not like that at all. Maybe they bring in the doctors, and the doctors are just like, another one bites the dust. All right.
I
Time
think
for supper.
you'd almost have to get desensitized that you're just like robotically doing a job and not thinking about it as taking a life. You're carrying out a sentence. I don't know how you would mentally get there, but that's.
I wonder what happened to his rat.
Yeah, I mean, I would suspect it went to the ASPA or a
If I was Curtis?
SPCA. Jamie's dad is Curtis, yeah.
If I was Curtis, I would have taken the rat and I would visit him in prison, and then I would have cut the rat's throat in front of him.
Wow, Brie. Oh, wow.
Like, you take my kid, I'll take yours type of thing.
And with that, I think we should wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and
It would have been therapeutic.
kick this one into the fireplace because the guy is dead. Rest in peace, Jamie.
The rat's probably dead too.
The rat has got to be dead by now, but they live a long fucking time, man.
I know, and they're hard to kill.
A long time.
He obviously liked that rat.
Ugh. But burn in hell, Kevin Underwood.
Fuck that rat. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and share with your friends. If you don't mind giving us a 5-star rating, it will help our show grow.
You can also find us on Facebook or TikTok, where the discussion can continue. If you wish to contact us, you may do so via email at truecrimestorypod@gmail.com.
Remember to send in your podcast episodes, case suggestions, or requests. Hop over to our Patreon for bonus content, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com to support the show.
Thank you so much for listening.
I'm Bree,
And I'm Shar.
and we'll see you in the next chapter. Bye.
Bye.